Simpson has torn a page from his past. He has run again. This time it's not the Bronco on the freeway. This time he is running from a potentially hard-hitting interview in the wake of his abrupt cancellation of his scheduled interview with NBC's Tom Brokaw and Katie Couric. People are questioning once again, does O.J. Simpson have something to hide? We've got a great panel to debate that. We have some insiders here, perhaps with some news on what exactly went into Simpson's decision not to show up for the NBC scheduled interview last night. Gregory Clay, sports writer for Newsday, believes the jury set a murderer free when they acquitted him. Greg, you believe that Simpson is guilty?
Yes, I do.
Aren't you totally out of step with the vast majority of African Americans in this country?
Well, see, my feeling is this. Number one, he did not have a clear-cut alibi. I've heard 4 different alibis. And we had the Bronco chase on June 17, 1994. Now, if you are innocent, why run? If you're innocent, why do you have 4 different alibis?
Greg, let me ask you this. Is he running again right now?
Yes, he is. Because
choice. I think it's his attorneys.
He's saving his money.
No, I think
he might be running, but he's not a stupid guy.
Because he's guilty. Yes, Greg.
Hold it the other way, you would not have this outrage. They had no evidence.
No, they had no evidence.
No.
Hold
it, everybody. Great.
Any honest lawyer knows that their case went out of the window based on the credibility of their witnesses. It was nobody who was going to convict Eddie lying. Van Adder is the guy who sunk this case.
Okay.
Yes, Greg.
Okay.
Yes, Greg.
I want to respond.
Hold the phone.
I'm responding to something that Mr. Grimes said earlier.
Mr. Grimes will respond to you. Go ahead.
About the athletes and domestic violence thing.
I think he's right about that, by the way.
But
I think that athletes in physical contact sports are more prone to domestic violence. Charlie, is that true?
The problem is,
well, farce anyway. Him coming on NBC was a farce anyway, because he had 15 months to get his story right. You know, he was in jail for what, 474 days. So he had 15 months to get his story right. The whole thing was a farce anyway. If you're so willing to tell your story, take the witness stand.
I talked to Kim Goldman on Saturday.
If you have nothing to hide, sit in the blue chair.
Hi, I'm Len Elmore, and welcome to the Global Village. If you take a look at the professional football or basketball teams in this country, you'll note that minorities make up many of the athletes in those 2 sports. In fact, 65% of professional football players and 77% of professional basketball players are African American. But when you look at the makeup of the owners and coaches of these teams, you see a completely different picture. Those calling the shots, those making the money, and those covering the stories are predominantly white. On today's Global Village, we're going to talk about minority ownership issues and race and hiring in sports. Joining me today is Gregory Clay, assistant sports editor for Knight Ridder Tribune News Service in Washington, D.C. Welcome.
How you doing, Len?
I'm all right. You know, we seem to have gotten past race in sports on the field. Why can't we do it off the field?
Well, because I think when you're on the field, you're viewed as employees. You're also viewed as non-threatening. When you're off the field, i.e. the front office, coaches, general managers, etc., those are power positions. And there's a segment in our society in sports that does not want to relinquish those power positions to people of color. That's the way it is.
And when you say that's the way it is, I mean, the reasons go back to what? I mean, I remember watching and being outraged when Al Campanis made his famous remarks.
In 1987.
That's right. Now, you know, that African Americans couldn't manage teams.
Right. He said that black folk didn't have the quote-unquote necessities. That was the key word. That was the shock word that riled everybody up, the necessities to be a field manager or general manager or whatever. And, you know, that was 14 years ago. And we're still dealing with this.
Well, the interesting part about it is, I know you were outraged, so was I, and many people that I know.
Right.
But if we're still dealing with it, apparently there are some people who weren't outraged and just kept quiet.
Exactly. And those people are the ones who run the teams. I think one of the problems is owners etc. Fear perception. I mean, one of the things I've always heard involving hiring is if you hire a black person or a person of color, then how do you handle it when you fire him? Okay? So a lot of people are already jumping from point A to point Z. You know, if I hire this guy and fire him, am I going to get complaints from the NAACP? Is Al Sharpton going to be on my case? Is Jesse Jackson going to be on my case? So rather than go through all of that maelstrom, then just don't do it at all.